Right, we've done who's going to leave MotoGP and who's going to join MotoGP next year. So now let's combine the two and do the final MotoGP grid predictions for next year. Now, with a 4-week break between races, there of course has been a lot of announcements about who's going where this year. So let's look at the confirmed riders for next year. On the Works Ducati, we already know we have Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez. And we also know that Fermin Aldeguer will race for a Ducati next year, but we don't know which one. For KTM, we already know that Brad Binder, Pedro Acosta are going to be for the factory team, and then Bastianini and Maverick Vinales will be on the Gas team. For Aprilia, we already know that Jorge Martin will be on the factory bike. For Yamaha, we know that Fabio Quartararo will be on the factory bike. And for Honda, we know that Luca Marini will be on the factory bike, and that Johann Zarco will be on the LCR Honda. And of course, we are yet to know whether Pramac will go to Ducati or Yamaha next year. For these predictions, I've gone with Pramac going to Yamaha. I think their main motivation for staying at Ducati would have been to get one of Jorge Martin or Marc Marquez. But now we know that both of them won't be going to Pramac, I see them jumping ship over to Yamaha. Meaning that Ducati will be left with just the factory team, the VR46 team and the Gresini team. Will the Gresini team be given a factory bike? I guess we'll see. So let's start with Ducati, and on the VR46 bike. The first one I've gone with is Fabio Di Giannantonio. I don't see him moving. He has had a very good season so far on that bike. He's only been there for 1 year. And I don't see Ducati getting rid of him, and I don't see him going elsewhere. He's been linked with Aprilia, but I think it'd be best for him to stay where he is. And alongside him, I've gone with Franco Morbidelli. He is 100% not staying at Pramac next year. If they stay at Ducati, he's not been good enough to stay with them, so I think they'd get rid of him. And if Pramac go to Yamaha, Morbidelli would leave because the whole reason of him going to Pramac was to leave Yamaha at the end of last year. Because he was terrible on that Yamaha. Morbidelli, I believe, is part of the VR46 Academy, so I think this move would make sense for him. It seems pretty obvious that Marco Bezzecchi wants to leave that VR46 team. They're going to be looking for a replacement, and I think Morbidelli will fit that mould quite well. And I think he'd do an okay job there, but I don't think he'd match Di Giannantonio at all. And now for the Gresini team, I've gone with Alex Marquez and Fermin Aldeguer. I think these are quite self-explanatory. Alex Marquez, there's no reason for him to leave Ducati. He's been doing an okay job this year. He's not been phenomenal or anything, but he's not been bad either. I see them keeping him for another year, and it'd be a good move for him because he could potentially get a factory bike. And Fermin Aldeguer, we already know he's going to a Ducati next year. I don't see him going to the VR46 team, as that seems to be mostly Valentino Rossi Academy riders, and Aldeguer is not part of that. So I think him going to the Gresini team would make most sense. And he's apparently been promised a factory bike, so it makes sense for that team to be given the factory bike, and then him getting his promise. This is just a move that makes the most sense, I think. Of course, we already know who's going to be riding for KTM next year, so we're going to move straight to Aprilia. And who will partner Jorge Martin? I've gone with Marco Bezzecchi. This is the move that is apparently very close to being announced. And Aprilia have been linked with a lot of names. They're of course linked with Bastianini, but he's now gone to KTM. They're linked with Di Giannantonio, but I think Bezzecchi's the most likely to go there. He's made it pretty clear that he wants to leave that VR46 team, and he probably regrets rejecting that Pramac seat for this year. I see him leaving the Ducati network and going over to Aprilia. And the Aprilia boss has also made it clear that Aprilia want an Italian rider. Bezzecchi is Italian, it just makes sense. And he's a good rider, and I think he'll do well there. And now for Trackhouse Racing Team. The first rider I've gone with is Joe Roberts. Of course, the American joining an American team, I've said it before, this makes perfect sense to me. Joe Roberts has been excellent so far in Moto2 this year, and I think he deserves to make that step up to MotoGP now. And out of all the available seats, Trackhouse makes by far the most sense to me. And I think Aprilia would suit Joe Roberts' riding style quite well as well. He's a rider who relies quite a lot on saving his tyres and good late race pace, which is exactly what Aprilia have been all about the last few years. So Joe Roberts I see going to the Trackhouse team, which means they're going to have to sacrifice one of Raul Fernandez or Miguel Oliveira. So I think Raul Fernandez will stay at that Trackhouse team. In 2024, Raul Fernandez has really matched Oliveira now in terms of ability, whereas in previous years it was pretty established that Oliveira was better than Fernandez. This year, Fernandez has made another step up and they're about the same now. However, Raul Fernandez is nearly 6 years younger than Oliveira. He's only 23 and he's got a lot of experience in MotoGP for that age. While Oliveira, he's going to be turning 30 soon. He's not a young rider anymore. For Aprilia and for Trackhouse, Ralph Fernandez would make a lot more sense. He's younger, he's going to improve a lot more than Oliveira. And as well as this, he crashes a lot less than Oliveira. All of these factors point towards Trackhouse keeping Fernandez and getting rid of Oliveira. So Trackhouse, I think, will be Ralph Fernandez and Joe Roberts next year. Let's move on to Yamaha now. We of course already know that Fabio Quartararo will be there next year, but who will partner him? I think Alex Rins will stay there. He is having a horrible season so far, but I don't see any reason for Yamaha to get rid of him. Alex Rins has shown a lot of pace this year in practice and qualifying. He just can't get it together in the race, but that's something that he can work on and that Yamaha could probably help him on. And it's not just him struggling with race pace. Quartararo has also been struggling in the race, just not as much as Alex Rins. But Rins is a quality rider, and on his day he's one of the best on the grid. I don't think Yamaha should get rid of him, and I think they'll keep him for another year. However, like I said, I think that Pramac will become a Yamaha satellite team. So who's going to join them? They need 2 new riders, and the first one I've gone with is Sergio Garcia. Now, I'll be honest, I originally had him going to Gas team, but then they announced Bastianini and Vinales, which sort of threw me off. In my opinion, Garcia simply has to be on the MotoGP grid next year, and I think the team with the most obvious space for him is that Yamaha team, if they join Pramac of course. Garcia is a quality rider, he's won 2 races so far this year, finished every race inside the top 6, he's remarkably consistent, and I think Yamaha would be a good spot for him. And I think he's a long-term replacement for Alex Rins as well. To me, Garcia to Yamaha just makes sense. But who's going to partner him? I've gone with Miguel Oliveira. After being booted out of Trackhouse, I see him moving over to the Pramac Yamaha team. Apparently he has already been told that if Yamaha have a satellite team next year, he will be in there, which makes a lot of sense. Now I'll be honest, I didn't originally have Oliveira going to Yamaha. It was in my mind, but I originally had him going to Honda, which is why him at Honda is in the thumbnail. And I originally had Joan Mir taking that Yamaha seat. But there's been a lot of stories over the past few days which are sort of more pointed towards Oliveira going towards Yamaha and Joan Mir staying at Honda. Which is why, on Honda, I've gone with Luca Marini and Joan Mir. Marini, of course, already has a contract for next year. And with Joan Mir, he's apparently signed a brand new contract, a 2-year deal with Honda, taking him with the team till 2026. Now this hasn't been confirmed yet by Honda, but the reports seem pretty credible to me. Now like I said, I originally had him going to Yamaha, and I had that because he just seemed so desperate to leave Honda. For the last month or so, all Joan Mir has talked about in the media is how much he wants to leave Honda and how terrible it is there. So it surprises me that he's just signed a 2-year contract there. I guess Honda must have offered him a shitload of money. But hopefully for his sake he can help lead Honda back in the right direction and get them back towards the top of the grid, because he's a quality rider who deserves a lot more than Honda at the moment. And finally we have the LCR Honda team. Of course we know that Johan Zarco already has a contract for next year, and joining him I've gone with Ai Ogura. I've said it before multiple times, he is the natural replacement for Takaki Nakagami. I think he's better than Nakagami, and I think he just fit in that team really well. I did consider putting him in the Repsol Honda team, but I think he'll go to the LCR Honda team. And my main reasoning for that is that Idemitsu sponsor one of the Honda bikes, the LCR Honda bikes. And they are a Japanese oil company who will want a Japanese rider on that bike. That's why they only sponsor one of the bikes. So I think Ai Ogura will go to that team, and I think he'll do a great job there. I think he'll give Johan Zarco a good run for his money. But that is my final MotoGP 2025 grid predictions. I can finally stop making videos about the silly season now. I believe my last 4 videos have been about the MotoGP silly season. We can finally move on to other video topics. My next video, it's going to be a fun one to film, I'm looking forward to it. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think the MotoGP grid will look like in 2025? Let me know in the comments. And also make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.